The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us. You can also hit us up on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And by the way, when you're out on YouTube, don't forget to go ahead and like, share, and more importantly, subscribe because we are marching to 1,000 subscribers and I need your help. Also, don't forget to support our sponsors, joinatradio.com and ribrub.com. And if you would like to be a sponsor, we'd love to have you. Give me a call at 615-554-0568. I can get you some advertising as low as $5 a spot. That's right, the big 5-0. $5 a spot. So we're working and trying to get things done, so we need a lot of help from you. We got a great show lined up for you today. We got a great black fact. I'll tell you about that here in a moment. But last week we talked a little bit about Karmelo Anthony, the young man who was embroiled in an attempted, alleged murder. There's been a lot of stuff that has come out. I also want to talk a little bit about GoFundMe. I find it interesting that what has happened on GoFundMe as well. It's really pathetic. So I'm going to give you some updates on that. There's a lot of speculation going on about this particular case, but we're going to try to give you some facts and then let the chips fall where they may, of course. Also, it's time. Last week we talked a little bit about Anthony Edwards and what was going on with his situation. But more importantly, it's time for mandatory DNA. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's something that I talked about 20 years ago when I was fighting for fathers' rights with my organization. I Love My Children Too. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today, but there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. Some of these women out here are wilding out, and men are paying for children that aren't even theirs and don't even know it. So it's time for mandatory DNA. If you're going to mandate that there must be child support paid for children, then you should mandate that there should be mandatory DNA. So we want to talk about that. We'll get into that a little bit as well. The Maryland House of Representatives passed a resolution last week to look into reparations. Hello. And if you've ever been in this area, in the DMV, there is so much black history here. And there are so many, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Phyllis Wheatley, Harriet Tubman, the list goes on and on, Benjamin Banneker. The list goes on and on and on about the historical significance of African Americans here in this particular area of the country. So now the Maryland legislature has decided that they're going to potentially look into reparations for black people. I find that interesting as well. We might do a little follow-up on Anthony Edwards. I think I said all I wanted to say about that, but we'll talk a little bit more about that today as well. And of course, we've got to talk about Donald Trump. And it's just been a nightmare. And you know what happened this past week as far as the stock market is concerned? You know who he reminds me of is, who was the comedian? What did he say? Yeah, that's the ticket. I think it was on Saturday Night Live. So we'll talk a little bit about that. This guy is a joke. If you all haven't figured this out by now, what are you thinking? It makes no sense whatsoever. I'm going to be totally honest with you. So that's what we've got on the, oh, by the way, we're going to make sure we cover the back pay for the criminals that Donald Trump released as well. They're talking about the, I don't really want to get into that right now because it just irks me. It just chaps my, that. Okay. So we're going to talk about all of that and a lot more today. And don't forget, we got to do what we must do. Okay? That's a regular segment now. And by the way, if you want to sponsor any of the segments, Black Focus Radio, Black Facts, or What We Must Do, we got a good package for you that as well. So that's what's on the agenda today. We've got a great black fact for my Christian brothers and sisters or my Bible thumpers. This black fact is about the Ethiopian Bible. Okay? The Ethiopian Bible. It existed long before the King James Version, and it has all of the books. So this black fact is created by Black Journals. Really appreciate that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
History has it that the interaction between white and the black folks has never had a good end, as the former, in their supremacy ideology, often tend to effectively utilize every opportunity to exploit, oppress, dehumanize, and devise possible ways to gag and shush the agonizing cries of the latter from being heard by the outside world. This, for a fact, has proven excellently true time after time. However, today we are taking you into the realm of ancient texts and forgotten lore, where also a sad tale of suppression and resilience historically unfolds. It's a story of how the Ethiopian Bible, a sacred scripture older than the King James Version, was aggressively fought and relegated to the shadows by colonial powers and missionary zealots. Let us embark on this journey through the ages, tracing the threads of history that weave a complex tapestry of cultural identity, imperial ambition, and the unyielding spirit of a nation. Do not forget to like, share to help spread consciousness, and subscribe to stay tuned in if you are yet to. Your support means a great deal. Now, to the big question. Have you ever given a deep thought as to why some spectacular breeds will conspire with certain manipulated religious heads to silence the one holy book that is not only spiritually inspired, but historically proves the origin of African spirituality, descent, and their ancient walk with their Creator? Have you also sat back to ponder on what could be contained in this book to necessitate its ban and complete omission from the mainstream religious book known today? What is behind the banning of the Ethiopian Bible? Why would anyone silence its usage around the world? Now to the digest.
This is the oldest book in Ethiopia.
No more painting, only writing, damaged.
Okay.
Original.
This is the original.
Original, Mary.
In the 1st century AD, Ethiopia embraced Christianity, its roots entwining with the ancient faith of the Hebrews. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church flourished, crafting its unique traditions and scripture, the Ge'ez Bible. This venerable text, penned in the liturgical language of Ge'ez, contained books like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and the Ascension of Isaiah, works that would later be excluded from the Western Christian canon. The history of the Ethiopian Bible is intertwined with the history of Ethiopia. Hence, we cannot talk about the Ethiopian Bible without taking a brief look at Ethiopia in ancient times, its religious history, and the emanation of the Ethiopian Bible. Located in the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia is known to have a rich and ancient history that dates back thousands of years. The country is known for being one of the oldest Christian nations in the world, with a history that is deeply intertwined with religion, culture, and tradition. Ethiopia is as old as the world itself, and so are the discoveries in her. Ethiopia was known to have never been colonized, once home to the powerful Aksumite Empire, which flourished from the 1st to the 7th century AD. The Aksumaites were known for their advanced civilization, impressive architecture, and thriving trade networks. They were also, most importantly, one of the first civilizations to adopt Christianity as their official religion, a decision that would shape the country's identity for centuries to come. Going forward, as the centuries passed, Ethiopia's Christian heritage blossomed, untouched by the ravages of time. But the winds of change arrived with the European colonizers and their missionaries in the 19th century. In 1835, the British and Foreign Bible Society set foot in Ethiopia, bearing the King James Version as their standard. They sought to translate the Bible into Amharic, the vernacular tongue, but omitted the apocryphal books, deeming them heretical. This sparked a chain reaction of events that would shake the foundations of Ethiopian Christianity. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to make contact with the Ethiopians. The missionaries they always arrayed in their front in these expeditions was a disguise of their real purpose for visitation and the real stuff they came with. They had brought with them new technologies, ideas, and most importantly, firearms. All these were harmful contributions to a society and a contamination of a nation's peaceful existence. This introduction of guns would have a profound impact on the country's future, as it would change the balance of power between the various factions vying for control of the region. The Europeans had brought with themselves a new religion called Catholicism. This would further intensify the clash with the traditionally Ethiopian Orthodox Church. In 1868, Italian Catholic missionaries arrived, furthering the suppression of the Ge'ez Bible. They viewed the ancient text as a relic of a bygone era, a hindrance to their mission of converting Ethiopians to Western Christianity. Emperor Tewodros II, a stalwart defender of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, resisted the encroachment of Western influence. He saw the missionaries' actions as an affront to Ethiopia's cultural identity and spiritual heritage and seized all of them. But his efforts were later on short-lived, as the tide of colonial oppression proved too strong and brutal, with all its technology of destruction unleashed against Ethiopia. The British shelled Magdala, which killed most of Tewodros's remaining soldiers in the fight. On April the 15th, same year of 1868, as the British troops stormed the citadel of Magdala, Emperor Tewodros committed suicide rather than surrender. This religious divide and war led to tensions and conflicts within the country, as different factions fought for control over the hearts and minds of the Ethiopian people. In the 1870s, Emperor Menelik II ascended to the throne, facing immense pressure from European powers yet again. He acquiesced later on to the missionaries' demands, allowing them to establish schools and hospitals. This marked the beginning of a new era, one in which Western Christianity would gain a foothold in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, however, refused to yield. Patriarch Matthias, a fiery advocate for the Ge'ez Bible, protested the suppression of the ancient text. He rallied his flock, ensuring the preservation of their sacred scripture. As the 20th century dawned, Ethiopia's struggle for independence intensified. Invaded by the Italian army under the leadership of Benito Mussolini in that time, the Italians sought to colonize Ethiopia and make it part of their expanding empire. But they were met with fierce resistance from the Ethiopian people, who rallied around their emperor, Haile Selassie, whom it is also said was from the Solomonic dynasty. The Italian occupation from 1936 to 1941 saw the Ethiopian or Ge'ez Bible banned, its possession punishable by imprisonment. Yet the Ethiopian people held fast to their heritage, safeguarding the ancient text in secret. This was known to be one of the most infamous episodes in Ethiopian history. By banning the Ethiopian Bible, these colonial powers aimed to 1. Suppress African cultural identity. 2. Erase historical connections to the ancient Israelites and the Solomonic dynasty. 3. Imposing Western Christian dominance. 4. Control the narrative and interpretation of Christianity in Africa. However, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church resisted this suppression, preserving the Ge'ez Bible and its traditions. Going forward, let's even have a closer look at this sacred book that the West desired so much to destroy. The Ethiopian Bible, also known as the Ge'ez Bible, or the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church Canon, is a collection of religious texts that are unique to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. It is composed of 81 books, including the traditional 66 books of the Old and New Testaments, as well as several additional books such as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the Ascension of Isaiah. The Ethiopian Bible, one of the oldest books in the world, has a long and storied history dating back to the early centuries of Christianity in Ethiopia. According to tradition, the Ethiopian eunuch mentioned in the Book of Acts was one of the first converts to Christianity in the region, and he is said to have brought the faith back to Ethiopia with him. Over the centuries, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church developed its own unique liturgical and theological traditions, which are reflected in the Ethiopian Bible. It is also believed that Queen Sheba, who also was talked about in the Holy Scriptures, was from a kingdom called Saba, modern-day Yemen and Ethiopia. She had met with King Solomon and, according to some legends, had a son with him. That son, who was named Menelik, somehow got a hold of the Ark of the Covenant and brought it back to Ethiopia. This would lead to the nation's zeal with Judaism. The earliest evidence of Christianity in Ethiopia dates back to the 4th century, when the Ethiopian king, Izana, converted to Christianity. This conversion was followed by a period of growth in Christianity throughout the region. During this period, the early church fathers translated the Bible into the Ge'ez language, allowing the Ethiopian people to read and study the Bible in their own language. The translation of the Bible was not completed until the 8th century, when the monk Abba Pantaleon completed the translation from Greek into Ge'ez. The Bible was then divided into 2 books. The larger book, known as the Kebra Nagast, contains the Old Testament, and the smaller book known as the Fetha Nagast contains the New Testament. The Ethiopian Bible has gone through several revisions over the centuries. In 1630, the Bible was revised for the first time in over 500 years. This revision was undertaken by the scholar Abba Bare, who was tasked by the Emperor Johannes I with updating the translation. Abba Bare's revision was the first major revision of the Bible since its original translation, and it helped to bring the Bible up to date with modern language and understanding. This goes a long way to confirm that Christianity was long birthed in Ethiopia before the introduction of the Europeans' version of Christianity. One of the most distinctive features of the Ethiopian Bible is the inclusion of the Book of Enoch, a text that is considered apocryphal by most other Christian traditions. The Book of Enoch is highly revered in Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity and is believed to contain important teachings and prophecies. In addition to the Book of Enoch, the Ethiopian Bible also includes other unique texts, such as the Book of Jubilees, the Ascension of Isaiah, and a host of many others. These texts provide valuable insights into the religious beliefs and practices of ancient Ethiopian Christians. The Bible is written in Ge'ez, an ancient Semitic language that is no longer spoken as a mother tongue. Despite this linguistic barrier, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has preserved the Ge'ez language for religious purposes, ensuring that the Ethiopian Bible continues to be read and studied in its original form. The Ethiopian Bible has played a central role in the religious life of Ethiopians for centuries. It has been used in worship services, as well as in private devotions and study. The texts contained in the Ethiopian Bible have been passed down through generations, preserved by scribes and monks who painstakingly copied them by hand, until the 16th century, when the Ethiopian Bible faced a significant challenge that culminated into what led to its ban. In 1526, a Portuguese missionary named Francisco Alvarez had arrived in Ethiopia with the goal of converting the Ethiopian Orthodox Church to Roman Catholicism. As part of this effort, Alvarez sought to introduce the Latin Vulgate Bible to Ethiopia and to suppress the use of the Ethiopian Bible. Despite Alvarez's efforts, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church resisted the imposition of the Latin Vulgate and continued to use the Ethiopian Bible in its worship and teaching. However, in the centuries that followed, the Ethiopian Bible would face further challenges, including attempts by European missionaries to promote the Protestant Bible over the Ethiopian canon. In the 19th century, however, it was then that the Ethiopian Bible would officially be banned from mainstream religious use by the Ethiopian government. Influence behind this had been conspicuously Western. The ban was part of a broader effort to modernize and westernize Ethiopia, which included the adoption of Western educational and religious practices. As a result, the Ethiopian Bible fell out of favor in official circles, and its use was restricted to more traditional and rural communities. Despite this ban, the sacred text continued to be cherished by many Ethiopians, who would always see it as a symbol of their cultural and religious identity. In recent years, there has been a renewed interest in the Ethiopian Bible, both within Ethiopia and among scholars and researchers around the world. This interest has led to the publication of new translations and studies on the Ethiopian Bible, shedding light on its unique history and significance. The controversies surrounding the faulting and banning of the Ethiopian or Ethiopic or Ge'ez Bible, whichever one it is called, never had any logical basis for the act. It was clearly oppressive, racist, and inhumane. Amongst the Ethiopian biblical texts, books like the Book of Enoch had been immediately cut out from the rest of the scriptures because of the revelations it holds. European missionaries viewed the Book of Enoch as heretical and incompatible with their own interpretation of Christianity. They saw it as a threat to their efforts to convert the Ethiopian people to their own version of Christianity, and as a result, they pressured the Ethiopian government to ban the Book of Enoch and other non-canonical texts from being used or taught in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Religious conflicts within Ethiopia, generated from the infiltrations coming from white missionaries who were loyal agents of colonialism, contributed immensely to the banning of its sacred text, a book whose sacred and historic essence or authenticity far outweighs any Bible which the West has to offer. The Holy Scriptures is more to the Ethiopians than it is or would ever be to the West. It has a lot to do with the very origin of the Ethiopians and the black collective than it has to do with the whites. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church had been divided into different factions, each with its own interpretations of Scripture and traditions. Some factions within the church still viewed the Book of Enoch as essential to their faith, while others would see it as a dangerous and heretical text. Ultimately, the Ethiopian government, under pressure from European missionaries and facing internal religious conflicts, decided to ban the entire sacred texts, which they considered non-canonical, from being used in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. This decision had a significant impact on the church and its followers, leading to further divisions and tensions within the community. European missionaries further played a significant role in shaping the outcome of the controversial decision regarding the Ethiopian people and their religious traditions. These missionaries, primarily from Catholic and Protestant denominations, sought to convert the Ethiopian Orthodox Christians to their own faiths. They viewed the Ethiopian Orthodox Church as a heretical sect and sought to bring the Ethiopian people into the fold of European Christianity. Colonial powers, particularly those from Italy and Britain, sought to weaken the church's influence and bring the Ethiopian people under their control. Also, the need to hide Africans' history further necessitated the ban of the Ethiopian Bible. One way in which Europeans sought to hide Africans' history was through the ban of the Book of Enoch, or the Ethiopic Book of Enoch. This ancient text is considered sacred by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and contains important religious and historical information about the African continent. By suppressing the Ethiopian Bible, Europeans meant to erase or distort the history and cultural heritage of Africans. This was part of a broader strategy to undermine the identity and autonomy of African societies, and to justify the exploitation and subjugation of the African people. The combination of pressure from European missionaries and colonial powers ultimately led to a weakening of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and a shift towards European Christianity among some segments of the population. This decision had lasting implications for the Ethiopian people and their religious traditions, as it led to a division within the Ethiopian Christian community and a loss of some of their traditional practices and beliefs. The books of the Ethiopian Bible that were banned include the books of Enoch, Jubilees, Ascension of Isaiah, Tobit, Judith, Baruch, Sirach, Wisdom, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, and many others. Let's go fetch a little insight on the information these books hold. Number 1, the Book of Enoch. The text of this book is attributed to the biblical figure Enoch, who was taken up to heaven. The book contains unique material on the origins of demons and Nephilim, why some angels fell from heaven, an explanation of why the Genesis flood was morally necessary, and a prophetic exposition of the 1,000-year reign of the Messiah. Now to the second, Jubilees, also known as the Book of Jubilees. The text of this sacred book is a book retelling the biblical history from creation to the giving of the law at Mount Sinai, with a focus on the importance of observing the Sabbath and other religious practices. The next on the list is the Book of the Ascension of Isaiah. This is an ancient Jewish text that is not included in the traditional Ethiopian Bible. However, it is considered a part of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church's broader canon of Scripture. The book is a prophetic vision attributed to the prophet Isaiah, in which he is taken up to the seventh heaven and given a revelation of the end times. The text describes the coming of the Antichrist, the final judgment, and the ultimate victory of God and good over evil. The Book of the Ascension of Isaiah also contains teachings on the nature of angels, demons, and the afterlife. It is a complex and mysterious text that has been the subject of much scholarly debate and interpretation. Now, to the fourth, Tobit. Briefly put, the sacred text of this particular book, called Tobit, tells us about the story of Tobit, a righteous man who is blinded and experiences various trials and tribulations, but is ultimately rewarded for his faithfulness. Next on the list is Judith. The Book of Judith, on the other hand, tells the story of a brave Jewish widow named Judith who saves her people from the invading Assyrian army by seducing and beheading their general, Holofernes. Now, to the sixth, the Book of Baruch. Briefly put, the text of this book, called Baruch, is attributed to Baruch, a scribe and companion of the prophet Jeremiah, and contains prayers and reflections on the exile of the Jewish people. The seventh, Sirach, which is also known as Ecclesiasticus. This book is more or less a collection of wisdom sayings and advice for living a righteous life. The eighth, the Book of Wisdom, also known as the Wisdom of Solomon. The text of this particular book, written by the son of King David, who had later on ascended the throne after his father's death, shares a philosophical reflection on the nature of wisdom and the importance of living a virtuous life. And finally, the ninth is the Books of the Maccabees. This sacred book recounts the history of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire and the rededication of the Temple in Jerusalem, with events that are celebrated during the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. These books were all banned by the West, considered heretical for none other reason than the unfiltered expressions of revelations and truth that they hold. They were considered non-canonical. However, not all Ethiopians fell for the lies. These books were still considered sacred and authoritative by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. In 1950, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church gained autonomy, and the Ge'ez Bible began its journey back into the spotlight. Today, it remains a testament to the unyielding spirit of the Ethiopian people, a symbol of their cultural identity and resilience in the face of adversity. The Ethiopian Bible, with its unique blend of Christian and Jewish traditions, representing a rich and diverse cultural heritage, is being preserved and passed down through generations. By banning this text, authorities are not only silencing the voices of Ethiopian Christians, but also erasing a vital part of their history and identity. The decision to ban this sacred text reflects a long history of colonialism, imperialism, and religious intolerance that has been on for as long as anyone can remember and sought to suppress and control the beliefs and practices of marginalized communities. In closing, the tale of the Ethiopian Bible's suppression serves as a poignant reminder of the complex interplay between colonialism, cultural identity, and the power of faith. It is a call to action to stand in solidarity with those whose voices have been silenced. It is a story that whispers through the ages, a testament to the enduring legacy of a nation that refused to surrender its heritage to the forces of oppression. That brings us to the end of yet another eye-opening video. Don't forget to support our works by hitting that thumb button in front of you, share with friends and families to keep spreading consciousness, and subscribe if you are too. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you for watching.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on joynetradio.com.
All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that Black fact. Look, I'm going to tell you, with what's going on right now in the criminal in charge administration, and I've said this over and over again, it is imperative that we teach our history. Okay, I was watching a clip on Facebook, and this white guy was upset because there was a Black History Month. And he was talking about, well, there's not a White History Month, and I'm part Italian, and there's not an Italian History Month. Well, it shows you the ignorance and the bigotry that is going on and the hatred of Black history. And more importantly, and he also went on to say that, well, we were taught Black history in school. No, you weren't. Because the only Black people that, and I say this because I was watching Jeopardy a few weeks ago, and they had a Black history segment. And the contestants were white, and they missed every question. Things like, who was Dr. Daniel Hale Williams? Who was Garrett Morgan? It just went on and on and on. So I say that to say this, is that we have got to teach our own history, okay? If it's at home, if it's at church, no matter where you are, we must teach our own history. Okay, so we've got to take a quick break. And by the way, if you would like to sponsor Dynamic Black Facts, give me a call at 615-554-0568. Now, let's take a break. When we come back, I'm going to give you some information or some updates on what's going on with Karmelo Anthony and this case. There's still a lot to be sorted out, but I want to make sure that you're not listening to what's going on Facebook with all of these lies and innuendo, and simply wait until the facts come out. That's important. So let's take a break. Back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joynetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joynetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joynetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event, or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joynetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joynetradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, if you'd like to send me some information. By the way, blackfocusradio@gmail.com. We'll make sure we follow up. If you have a guest that you'd like to see on the show, we'd love to have you as well. We love that information. If you want to be a guest and you have something credible that you want to add to Black Focus Radio, just hit me up. Or you can call me. It doesn't matter. Leave me a voice. Well, don't leave me a voicemail. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't even answer my voicemails. If I don't recognize your number, I'm sorry. I may not even answer. That's because I'm getting so many calls from just spam calls. I'm sick of them. Okay. Anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about this Karmelo Anthony case. And by now, many of you are familiar with Karmelo Anthony, not the basketball star, but the young man who killed another young man at the beginning of the month, somewhere in there. It's just been crazy about all the stuff that has been going on. But just in case you're not familiar with it, let me just do a quick recap. Karmelo Anthony is a 17-year-old kid from Frisco, Texas, and he was at a track meet, and along with other schools in Frisco, Texas, a downpour ensued. And as I said last week, if you've ever been at a track meet, a lot of these teams will set up tents where the team can rest under the tents to get it. Because a lot of times track meets are in the heat. The sun is blazing. Sometimes it rains. And so you have to have some shelter. So a downpour ensued, and Karmelo Anthony ran under an opposing school's tent. Okay? And apparently two twins, I shouldn't say two twins, that's redundant, but twin brothers decided that they were going to, and these are reports that have been corroborated, that they were going to harass Karmelo Anthony because he was not from their school. And the early reports were saying that they knew each other. It has come out now that they didn't know each other. It was also reported that Karmelo had been suspended from school and he wasn't supposed to be there. A lot of this stuff was coming from white media, which was a bunch of lies. But be that as it may, Karmelo was under this tent. One of the twins started harassing Karmelo and pushing on Karmelo. And Karmelo told him not to touch him. And apparently the twin touched him and said, "What are you going to do about it?" And next thing you know, Karmelo had reached in his bag. He had a knife and he stabbed the young man in the chest. And he died. And of course, his twin brother was there. He said he didn't see any of the thing. Karmelo later admitted that he did it. The argument is self-defense. Many people are saying it was self-defense because this young man and his twin brother was harassing him. But we'll wait till all of that is, hashed out in court. Right now, Karmelo is in jail with a huge bond. Last I checked, it was over $1 million. And there's been so much speculation over the last week about this particular case. And this begs everyone. It gives you a classic example of why you should not depend on social media to give you facts. Okay? I've been purposely trying, I posted the initial story, but I will not post anything else until I know the facts. There was rumors out that a toxicology report was done on the victim and said that he had, barbiturates and painkillers in his bloodstream. Well, I knew that was a bit peculiar because you can't do a toxicology report in a week. You might be a preliminary, but an in-depth toxicology report, no, that's just not what's gonna happen. But that was on Facebook, and a lot of people out there ran with that. So what I would probably advise people at this point is that this case is certainly a concern. What I said last week, I personally believe that there are a lot of white people who seem to believe because Donald Trump is the president that they've been empowered to harass black people even more, which I think that is a huge, huge mistake. Because unlike the people of the 60s who allowed themselves to be harassed, kidnapped, murdered, and they turned the other cheek, black people today are not going to do that. And somebody better tell white people that, especially these right-wingers who think that they can get away with harassing and killing black people and black people aren't going to respond. So it's interesting that they continue to do this. And I say that because Karmelo Anthony wasn't going to allow, based on what we know, these white people to harass him. Okay? Here's the other thing about this. So I participated in sports, and Frisco, Texas isn't that big. And when I was growing up, I had friends who played for opposing teams. Okay? I went to, in elementary school, that's not important, but junior high, and I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. Junior high, I went to Dunbar. Our rivals was Pulaski Heights, Horace Mann, and Booker. Okay? Those three, and of course, let's say it was Pulaski Heights, Horace Mann, Booker, and Dunbar. Those were the four, at that time, those were the junior high schools. And I had friends at all of those schools, okay? We grew up together, but the way they drew the lines, I had friends who lived across the street who ended up going to another school, or around the corner going to another school. We were still friends. So we would have never thought about hurting another friend. And when I got to high school, those were some huge rivalries. In Little Rock alone, we had Little Rock Central, Little Rock Hall, Little Rock Parkview. We had North Little Rock, Old Main, and North Little Rock Northeast. So those were 5 high schools in the Little Rock metropolitan area. And I knew people in all of those schools. I dated women in different schools. You know, Fort Smith, North Side. My girlfriend was from Fort Smith, which was an hour and a half away. I knew people at Fort Smith. I say all of that because when you came together at athletic events, yeah, you played hard. You tried to knock the other person's block off, but there was never an instance of where I thought about killing another one of my friends, you know, another opponent. There were instances when I ran track, you know, and I talk about those tarps where yeah, we had downpours, and periodically there would be people running under tents. It didn't matter who you were or where you were from, you know. It was just trying to get out of the rain or get out of because sometimes there were thunderstorms and you didn't want to be out on that field when it was lightning. So you ran for cover. So I don't understand how those twins could take offense from a kid who was just simply trying to get shelter. Now, I am not condoning anything that Karmelo Anthony did. This young man probably should have, I don't know, he could have left. I don't know that raindrops was going to, no pun intended, kill him. But this case is just so perplexing to me, so disappointing to me that our young people today are so caught up that they are willing to kill. They are willing to, and a lot of it, and you could say a lot of it has to do with video games, okay? These kids bringing guns to school. These people, they really don't even have any remorse. And a lot of it has to do with these video games. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I have Call of Duty. I've been playing. My first original video game that was a single-person shooter was SOCOM. Love that game. In fact, I'd stay on that game for hours. Now, I don't have time. I'm older now. I don't have time now to play Call of Duty the way I played SOCOM, but I still have it. And it's a vicious game. You kill people. Virtually, that is. You know, so I think a lot of the video games, and I'm not trying to advocate banning video games or anything like that, but Fortnite and Call of Duty and some of these other single-person shooter games, Assassin's Creed, there's so many out there that are so vicious, so wicked, that I think a lot of these kids have become desensitized to what it means to kill somebody, okay? It's a game to them, more or less. Something clicks in their minds. So I say all that to say this. The bigotry and the racism has reared its ugly head. And I've seen some white people. And their posts, and I'm like, man, oh man. And so what I want to do real fast is because, you know, last week people set up a GoFundMe account for Karmelo Anthony, okay? And it was raising money. Since then, GoFundMe has took the account down. Now, the young man that was killed, they got his account still up. But here's what bothers me about this. And I want to play this piece real fast about this hypocrisy that we have as it relates to Karmelo Anthony and what's going on, because this is disturbing to me, to say the least. And I think it's important for us to at least point out the differences in what's going on. So you all listen to this, and I'll talk a little bit more on the other side.
Kyle Rittenhouse, after he killed 2 people in cold blood, he raised over $1 million. Wait a minute.
Let's
the
talk
officer
about that.
who killed Michael Brown, he raised almost $2 million. So don't tell me that when black folks decide to put money and support behind a young brother who didn't start a fight, who didn't threaten nobody, who was sitting where he could have right to be sitting, was threatened more than one time, was physically attacked, he defends himself, and then all of a sudden he's in jail for murder. But guess what, brother? We gonna stand behind ours like you white folks stand behind yours.
Okay, let me
that
be
young
clear.
brother was attacked.
I know you're yelling because you really get worked up when you're lying.
Well,
let me say.
Let me say
very clear.
But then it's justified.
Us killing
but when we defend ourselves, now, it's murder.
Now, that's the point. You all remember Kyle Rittenhouse, right? Summer, was it 2020, where he decided that he would leave Wisconsin and go to Chicago, and with an AR-15 and accost 2 people. He shot 2 people and killed them and injured another. White people, look, they made him a hero. They made him a hero. Derek Chauvin, okay? The list goes on and on, how white people have been raising money for white criminals who have killed black people. But now that black people are raising money for Karmelo Anthony, all of a sudden white people all in their feelings. You see, that dog ain't gonna hunt at all. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinnedradio.com.
Listen. Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year, and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on joinnedradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. I apologize for last segment talking about the Karmelo Anthony issue, but we finally got the video, I should say the audio of what's going on and the argument. And I do think it's fascinating that there are white people out there who think that we shouldn't support this young man, Karmelo Anthony. I think it also disturbs a lot of people that Karmelo Anthony, and as you heard Brother X talk about, that there have been white criminals who have been able to get funding through GoFundMe, and GoFundMe didn't cancel their GoFundMe accounts, okay? But because this is a black kid, GoFundMe decided to kill his account that he was raising money with, which is unfair. And I think we need to address that at some point with the GoFundMe people as well. So, again, this is something that we need to pay attention to, but let's wait on the facts. That's important, folks. Let's just wait on the facts and see what happens, and let's go from there. Because this is a explosive case. It's a disturbing case. Look, the young man should have thought differently. But, I mean, I don't know why he had a knife in his backpack. Was he being bullied previously? All of this stuff will come out. And the truth will come out as well about all of this stuff. All right. So one other thing I want to talk about is April 5th. And to show you how, anybody who thinks that racism doesn't exist in America, all you need to do is go back and look at April 5th. Now you say, well, what happened April 5th? As you know, last week I was telling people, please don't go to that march. There were a lot of white people marching in different cities across the country protesting Donald Trump. Many of those people voted for Donald Trump. The curious thing is that there were no or very few black people. The other curious thing is there was very few police. The video that I saw on various marches across the country, there were no police, okay? None whatsoever. So there were no incidents. Why is that? It's an interesting question. So if you remember back when black people were marching, or whenever black people march, there are police everywhere in riot gear, arresting people, harassing people. I think of the George Floyd killing, and when that march went on, and I one of the images that stands out to me is the image of a black woman standing in front of a line of police. Just this single black woman. And she had no fear. Now, what was the difference in then and now? White people? Is that what we want to say? Because that's what it was. And there was a white person on social media this past week talking about, oh, what the march is so wonderful. There was no violence or anything. Well, see, here's the thing. See, white people can march in this country and not be accosted by police because that's their constitutional rights. But when it comes to black people in America, even though it is to our constitutional rights, police don't agree with it. And they harass, they show up, they shoot tear gas, they intimidate, they agitate, they do all of those things that create a problem. And don't forget, during that time of some of the marches, there were white people who were going around, white boys, white men who were going around and vandalizing and setting afire various businesses. If you go back and if you remember some of the videotape, we saw a lot of these white people, white in mask, who were going in and setting afire different things, and then people pointing those out to the police. That was a deal with Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse had no business being in Chicago with an AR-15. He didn't live in Chicago. Kyle Rittenhouse was an agitator. He harassed people. And then when people approached him, he shot and killed them. And the argument was that he was defending himself. And he got off, by the way. Y'all remember that, right? He got off. And he became a national hero for white people. So when you say, or when you attempt to say that America is not racist, every day we see just how racist America is. America voted for Donald Trump because they're racist. I know they don't like to do that, don't like to hear that, but America, those who voted for him, they voted for him because of racism. Had nothing to do. This man is no businessman. Later on in the show, I'm going to play some things and read some things to you to show you that this man is no business genius. This man is a crook. But every day we get an opportunity to see just how racist America really is. And, you know, I'm saddened. Let's see, in a few days, a few weeks, I'll turn, 64? It's amazing to me. I'm happy to still be here. I've been having some health problems. Y'all pray for the brother. But I'll turn 64. And I had hoped that by the time I got to this age, that racism in America would only be in the history books. But it is as prevalent as ever. In fact, I won't say it's worse, because we had Jim Crow and black codes and things of that nature. We had KKK murders and kids being blown up in churches, kids being kidnapped. But the racism today is palpable. I know growing up at Little Rock Central, we did everything we can. It was, 51 black, 49 white. If you don't know the history of Little Rock Central, then do yourself a favor, go out and look it up. But we did everything we possibly could, white and black. We didn't have a lot of Hispanics or Asians or anything like that. We had a few. But we did everything we could to make sure that racism was not going to be the legacy of our graduating class. Racism was not going to be the legacy of Little Rock Central during the time that we were there. But unfortunately, and I will say also that gave me hope. I had a lot of white friends, okay? I had a lot of white teammates. As a matter of fact, our graduating class, we had a graduating party at a rich white boy's house out in what is called Pleasant Valley. I remember we had a convoy, a car convoy after graduation that had to be 40 or 50 cars deep. And when we arrived at this house, cars were everywhere. We were out on the patio. We were at the pool. The white parents were great. There was not a hint of racism at all. And I was hopeful that things are changing. Things are changing. In fact, when I went away to college in this little town called Magnolia, Arkansas, I had never been called the N-word in my lifetime. Obviously, I had heard it. But my freshman year in college, this guy by the name of Russ Roop, yes, I'm calling your name, who is a bigot, called me the N-word. He said, "You Little Rock niggas think y'all are something." And I laughed because it didn't offend me, because it was comical that this guy had called me the N-word. I'd never been called that by a white guy. In fact, I don't even like black people calling me that. I'll tell them, man, I'm not your N-word. Okay? So anyway, Russ Roop called me that. So I say all that to say this, with this thing with Karmelo Anthony, with this thing that's going on with Donald Trump, and all of the things that are happening in America, I need white people to understand that black people aren't going back. I'm old. I'll fight you to the death if you're talking about putting me back enslaved. It's just not going to happen. Okay? So on that note, we're at the top of the hour. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about it's time for mandatory DNA. I don't want to forget about that. I also want to talk about the Maryland House of Representatives approving a panel for reparations. And we're going to talk about Donald Trump. I talk about him periodically on the show, but we're gonna create an entire segment of where we can talk about him and some of the things that are going on, because I'm fascinated that white people are willing to have a criminal in the White House, and they talk about the criminality of immigrants. It's just a fascinating. When you say racism doesn't exist in America, all you got to do is open your eyes and ears, because it's here. Okay? Taking a break. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Welcome back to the second hour of Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, we'd certainly love to have you. Hit me up on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. By the way, if you go out to my Facebook wall, my personal wall, you're seeing that I'm posting a lot of stuff as it relates to foods and healthy diets and things of that nature. Just a quick side note, and we'll get back to the show. As you all know, what was it? August of 23, I almost died. You know the story if you've been following the show. I was diagnosed with diabetes. My sugar was 725, and I should have died. I didn't. I thought I was healed, and I went for about a year and it was gone. I was eating right and I'm still eating right, but it came back and it's back now with a vengeance. And so, yeah, I look healthy. I look fine, but I'm battling to keep my blood sugar low as much as I can. And right now it's running in the 200s. So y'all pray for me. It is disconcerting to say the least. My wife is upset. I'm upset. It's really depressing. I'm down to 215 pounds, so I'm losing weight. But I just kind of need you all's prayers. So when you go out to my wall and you see all the food that I'm posting, there's a reason why I'm doing that. Tons and tons of stuff. Okay, tons of stuff out there. All right. So one of the things I want to talk about this hour is mandatory DNA, and I also want to talk about the mandatory, or I should say the Maryland State Legislature, who has put together a commission a task force to look at reparations. But let me just start off with this. Over the years, as you all know, I had an organization called I Love My Children Too. It was designed to fight for fathers' rights. And one of the things that we attempted to do during that time period was usher in mandatory DNA. Now, many of the arguments that we had or we got from legislators in Tennessee, because that's where I was living at the time, was the court is not in the business of bastardizing children. Okay? So for instance, if you're a man and you're married to a woman, and that woman goes out and gets pregnant by another man, in other words, she plays around on you and she sleeps with another man and she gets pregnant, you would tend to believe that the husband should not be financially responsible for that child. But that's not the case. If she goes out and gets pregnant, and this is going to give you a clear example of the hypocrisy and the double standard that is out here. She goes out, she gets pregnant by another man, you all are still married. Even if she gets pregnant while y'all are separated, and I almost ran into this, you theoretically could be financially responsible for that child. And the argument that many people made, and many of the legislators and even lawyers would make, and some judges who were friends of mine would say, that the court is not in the business of bastardizing children. And what that means basically is that they don't want that child to be so-called brought up in a single parent household, even though the father or the husband had nothing to do with the pregnancy. On the other hand, if I, the husband, go out and impregnates another woman while I'm married, and it happens often, just like the other case does, then the woman, my wife, is not responsible. Huh? Did y'all know that? Let me state this again. If I'm married and my wife goes out and gets pregnant by another man, I potentially could be financially responsible for that child based on the law, the implied law. If my wife, if I go out and impregnates another woman, then my wife is not financially responsible. Huh? I gave you that dog look. Okay? That shows you the double standard here. That shows you the double standard. But here's my point. That in this day and time, since DNA is so prevalent, that is used in all types of situations, when it comes to crime, when it comes to children, why aren't we looking at mandatory DNA when it comes to custody and child support? Here's my argument. If you go to DHS and you say, I want to put my baby's father on child support, then there must be a mandatory DNA test. In fact, it should be before you can even sign the birth certificate. There must, now some states are already doing this. But before you can even sign the birth certificate, if you go in a hospital and you and your girl and y'all in love and you have a baby, and particularly if you're not married, and the hospital says, well, are you the father? We need you to sign the birth certificate. You should not sign that birth certificate. I will tell guys right now, do not sign a birth certificate look, I will tell you this right now. Even if you're married in this day and time, I would argue that you may not want to sign that birth certificate until there's a DNA. Because there are a lot of women out here who are having babies, playing around on their spouses and their boyfriend, getting pregnant, and having these babies, and there are men who are taking care of children unbeknownst to them, and they're not even theirs. That's a fact. All I got to do is point to Maury. All I got to do is Lauren Lake. It's all over. There are so many of these women out here lying about their sexual promiscuity and having babies and dumping it on other men. And when you watch some of these shows and these men discover that child is not theirs, it is a sad situation. There have been children who are 28, 29, 30 years old and didn't know who their dad was. I'm 63 and I don't know who my dad is right now. I love my mother, but she never told me the truth. So I'm a living witness on why this is so important. This is so important. We have got to start. Look, if you're telling me that women are equal, if you're telling me that women have the right to do all the things that they do, and they do, they're human beings, then they can pay child support. They can lose custody. And it's time for us to come into the 21st century. And I think more and more men have got to start making this argument. You know the best thing, Republicans don't get it. I said this decades ago. You want to stop promiscuity in women? Tell them that they could potentially lose custody. Start judging fathers based on their merit. When it comes to a mother and a father, and a child is in the middle, instead of arbitrarily saying that, oh, she's the mother, she's going to have to raise the child. Instead of doing that, if she knew that we're going to go into the court and this is going to be a 50-50 proposition, you may or may not have custody of your child. I guarantee you, women will start making you, the man, protect himself. Because what we're seeing now is women are out here having these babies, and we talked about Anthony Edwards last week, having these babies from a lot of these people who are in. Look, I told you At one point, I worked for Dell Computers. I was making really good money. This young lady accused me of fathering her child when I knew it wasn't her child. But she accused me because the guy that actually fathered the child was just a thug. I didn't know this until it all came out in court. After I was served on my job, sheriff come to my job, I was embarrassed, all of that stuff. And then the DNA came out. And see, I knew it wasn't my child, but I couldn't wait for the DNA. I wasn't worried. But she accused me because she knew I was working for Dell Computers and I was doing a radio show. And I'm going to get some of his money because that's what it was all about. She wasn't trying to be fair. She wasn't trying. In fact, she didn't even tell me she was pregnant until 6 months in. And she had people coming to my house, knocking on my door, telling me that I was the father of this woman's child when I was not. I was not. Thank goodness for DNA. But there are men out there who are walking around every day thinking that their children are theirs, and in fact, they are not. It's causing a lot of animosity. I mean, I'm on social media a lot. I see it on social media. I'm sitting here thinking about, and let me just say this real fast. The argument that women are trying to throw at you, where if you were a man, then you wouldn't mind taking care of some other's children. So you can crap on a man and then say, hey, because you're a man, you got to take this. That is one of the most specious arguments I've ever had in my lifetime. That is just ridiculous. Okay? If you're my son, if you're telling me my son, the bond that I have with my son and my daughter, because I'm thinking their mind is different from a child that I never knew. No, you don't have any responsibility for that child unless you want to have responsibility for that child. That's just the bottom line on it. That's just the bottom line on it. And yes, if you have deceived a man and he has paid X amount of dollars in child support and it comes out that the child is not his, then you, the mother, the lying mother, should be financially responsible. Yes, you should. That's fraud. And don't sit here and tell me, oh, I didn't know. And this is the argument that when you watch these shows, well, I thought it was his. No, you knew. Women knew. Women know. That's just a lie. That's another specious lie. Well, I didn't sleep with anybody. Yeah, you did. You knew you did. To solve all of this problem, because every child deserves to know who their father is, the rightful father. He might be a bum. He might be a thug. He might be in prison. But every child deserves to know. I saw a story on Facebook where the guy had been fathering this, had been taking care of this child for 5 years. Found out, child wasn't his. He kicked the mother out and the child. She shows up at his birthday party that his parents was throwing him. This was an older gentleman. He was probably 30, 31, somewhere there. I don't know what the age is. And she brings the child. And he's upset. Why are you bringing this child and why are you here? And what he didn't know that, and here's the sad thing about that particular story. His mother and his sister had invited her to the party to bring the child. And let me say, it wasn't his birthday party. It was one of the kids' birthday party that was in the family. And they had invited, because they had known this child for 5 years. They had typically raised this child for 5 years. And then it came out that the child was not even kin to them. It was by another man. And it was just an ugly, nasty argument. And a lot of people try to defend her And even his mother and his sister was attacking the man. No one was even compassionate enough to understand his feelings. Here's a man who thought this child was his for 5 years, who had loved and nurtured this child and was living a lie because of the mother of that child. Made no sense whatsoever. I saw another one where a woman had a baby. Father was in prison. Guy found out, he kept thinking, this child doesn't look like me. So he, what it was, he actually was going out, and you've seen these Ancestry.com commercials. So he wanted to know where he was from. So he took the child and himself and they both tested with Ancestry.com. And guess what? Unbeknownst to him, he wasn't actually going for a DNA test to determine whether or not the child was his. He was simply doing Ancestry.com. And what did Ancestry.com reveal? That the child wasn't his. He too had been, I think this child was like 3. So this is a no-brainer. And we've got to start talking to our state legislators and demanding that mandatory DNA must be done. If you're on AFDC, if you're getting food stamps, if you're getting Medicaid, any of those things for a child, before that child can be put on Medicaid, there must be a DNA test. There must be a DNA test. Now, you say, well, a lot of kids are going to go hungry. Well, you can limit the amount of, here's my argument. You can limit the amount of proceeds that they get. So let's say, for instance, this is a single mother, and she may or may not know who the father is. She may not want to say who the father is. Well, until you tell us who the father is, until there's been a DNA test, then your benefits are going to be restricted. In other words, you're going to get, lack of a better term, instead of getting $500 a month for food stamps, you're going to get $200. That's how you need to do that. So, yeah, I believe mandatory DNA is a must. All right. One other quick thing before we go to break. For years, I've been talking about reparations and how black people deserve reparations. It's not if they should. Black people should be getting reparations in this country based on the American slave trade. And by the way, you black people out there who keep making this argument that there was no transcontinental slave trade, y'all are so stupid. Yeah, there was. The Middle Passage was real. Okay? There's a reason why there are so many black people in the Caribbean. There's a reason why there are so many black people in Central and South America. If you understand Abu Bakari, when he migrated back in the early 1300s to South America. Now, we all understand that the continents at one point were together, and black people who were the original people migrated, and there were some who were already here in America. But this argument that some of you all are saying that there was no transatlantic slave trade, and some of you all are educated. Man, what's wrong with y'all? I say all that to say this. The Maryland House gave preliminary approval last Tuesday to a bill creating a statewide reparations commission to study and recommend benefits for Marylanders whose ancestors were enslaved or impacted by inequitable government policies. The legislation, a top priority for the Legislative Black Caucus, passed the Senate last month and would task the commission with exploring possible reparations such as cash payments, housing assistance, and business incentives. That's by the Baltimore Sun. It is, in my opinion, a move in the right direction. And you can go out and, by the way, that article is on my wall. Let's see. You can go out to the Baltimore Sun as well and look at the article. And what are your thoughts? Reparations to black Americans are long overdue. I said I would never see it in my lifetime. I'm 64 now. Well, I'm 63 and a half. Well, I'm 63 and 3/4. But at least somebody is beginning to look at this. And I applaud the legislature at the Maryland House for taking some time out to make a serious inquiry about the reparations for black people. Okay, so, one other quick note. People are still mad at Anthony Edwards. I'm not mad at him. You keep doing what you're doing. And by the way, you NFL, NBA, it doesn't matter if you're making a lot of money. These gold diggers are after you, bro. And all they want to do is have your baby. And they're paid for life. That's real. That's what's happening. If you've already had kids, here's what I would recommend. Snip, snip. That's what saved me. And I tell people all the time, the best damn surgery I ever had in my life. Because I've been accused twice. And I knew it wasn't mine. But anyway. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. We're going to talk about what we must do, and we've got to talk about a few things with the criminal in chief. Back in a moment, you're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from ReaRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on ReaRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes. SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils. And yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to SkinTentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. SkinTentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. A lot of stuff to talk about this segment. Of course, we've been following the criminal in chief, and what a national and international embarrassment. 2 weeks ago, we saw the stock market crash. It basically lost $6.6 trillion. The biggest crash since, the 1930s. All caused by an idiot by the name of Donald J. Trump. And it fascinates me how many people still say, well, he knows what he's doing. He's a businessman. So I want to play something for you that's going to kind of put this all in perspective, okay? Because it's important for you all to understand about this guy and all of these failed businesses, because that's what they are failed businesses. So let's see. Let me make sure I got the volume up. I think I got everything set this time around. So let's listen to this, if you don't mind. Let's just check this out. It's going to blow your mind.
A story of Lil Donald Trump and the very big list of failed businesses. In 1989, Trump borrowed $250 million to buy an airline. Trump's planes were so badly taken care of, they suffered a minor crash. Lil Donnie, of course, blamed the previous owners. It went out of business in just 2 years. Lil Donnie tried to open a bottled water company. He lied and told people it was the purest water from a secret spring. It was tap water from Pennsylvania. The company collapsed in 2010. Trump, the board game. Donald tried to sell his board game with Milton Bradley, who sold so few copies they pulled it from the shelves in 1989. Later, Trump tried to re-release it during The Apprentice and sold even fewer. Trump Mortgage LLC ceased operations in 2007. GoTrump.com, a travel site, ceased operations in 2007. Trump Steaks, a brand of steak and other meats, discontinued sales 2 months after its launch. TrumpNet, a telephone communication company, ran out of money before it even launched. Trump Tower Tampa turned out to be a scam, but Trump walked away with millions. Trump University was an utter criminal disaster that scammed thousands out of their money. Trump Vodka failed due to a lack of sales. Trump Fragrances was pulled from shelves for extraordinarily low sales. Who the fuck wants to smell like a full 2-day-old diaper anyway? Trump Mattresses shut down for low sales. Lil Donnie's casinos were utter disasters. The Trump Castle and Marina bankrupt and sold. Trump Plaza Hotel bankrupt, closed and demolished. The Trump World's Fair bankrupt and demolished. Trump 29 in Coachella? He was kicked out of that one for incompetence. It's also worth noting that at this time, Trump was removed from control of the company. He agreed to step down quietly, but that damage was done. Yet during his time as chairman, he took the stock of the company from $35 a share down to 17 cents. Because little Donnie Trump's only claim to fame, that he's a good business boy, is also one of his biggest lies.
He's a liar. He is certainly not a businessman. So these sycophants who are following this idiot over the cliff is simply amazing to me. And here's why they're doing it. Because all of them are making money. So 2 weeks ago, the stock market crashed, right? This past week, it crashed again. And some of his advisors finally went to him and said, hey, it's just not the stock market, it's the bond market too. And what you all don't realize is the bond market is more important than the stock market, because that's how people invest in America. It got so bad that bonds from Greece were worth more than bonds from the United States. That's how bad it got. So he passed these tariffs, stock market crashes, the bond market crashes, and everybody said, well, Trump's a genius. He's a business genius. Huh? Did you just hear what I played? Did you hear that? He's not a genius. He's never been a genius. He's a charlatan. But y'all allow him to continue to do this. And the reason, so the reason he does this is because he's making money for other people and himself. Last week we had 4 soldiers who died in Lithuania. This guy decided that he was going to go and play golf with the Saudi Arabians at Mar-a-Lago. And that's what he did. Typically when soldiers die and they're flown back to America, the president shows up, talks to the family. Trump didn't do that. He didn't do that. This guy's all about himself. But this past week when the market crashed again, he decided, oh, well, we're going to put a 90-day moratorium on the tariffs, because the tariffs are what caused the market to crash. One thing that Wall Street doesn't like is uncertainty. And this guy he's the epitome of that. So he decides that he was going to do a 90-day moratorium. And the stock markets began to bounce back. And all of his sycophants started saying, well, that was the plan all along. That was the plan. Huh? Are you scratching your head like I'm scratching my head? He reminds me of those people who lie to you, because he lies. And then when they're busted in the lie, they say, that's not what I really meant. Oh, yeah, that's the ticket. See, what happened was, I knew this all along. I was just, I'm the business genius. I knew the stock market was going to bounce back. He really think the American people are stupid. And unfortunately, some of y'all are. Because as I listen to interviews from various people and various news organizations who are interviewing Donald Trump sycophants, well, he's a business genius. I keep watching The Daily Show, and, they go out to the Trump camps and they'll say, did you know that Joe Biden didn't serve in the military because he had bone spurs? And then you got all these people. Yeah, well, see, Joe Biden, he hated America. He said, and then the commentator said, well, actually, that wasn't Joe Biden. That was Donald Trump. What do you have to say about that? Well, they don't have anything to say. I saw one just the other day where they said that Joe Biden saw this 10-year-old and made the comment that I'll be dating her in 10 years. The commentator asked a couple of Trump sycophants, what did they think about Joe Biden sexually assaulting or suggesting that he would date a 10-year-old in 10 years? And all of these people had all of these negative things about Joe Biden. And he said, oops, sorry, folks. That wasn't Joe Biden. That was Donald Trump who said that. And one of the guys, Donald Trump didn't say that. And the commentator pulled up the news notes and on his phone and showed it to him. Oh, well, that was made up. The AI this, AI that. That was interesting. This guy got y'all fooled. If this is not a cult, what is it? Here's my point. Is that this is probably one of the most disgusting people we have ever seen. America is losing its credibility because of this person. But the reason Donald Trump is in office is because he's white. That's the bottom line on that. As a matter of fact, I saw an interview with Steve Bannon the other day, and Steve Bannon was talking about, Donald Trump is now saying, hey, he's going to run for a third term. Well, the Constitution amendment, the 22nd Amendment clearly states that, no president can run for a third term. Steve Bannon in this interview said, well, we've got people working on that. So here's the point. Democrats, independents, if you love America the way you say you do, then you need to be working on to make sure that this guy is not able to do this. And we've got to get these judges in line. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. The bottom line is, and it used to be that the bottom line is, we're going to stick to the law. And you know, I heard something interesting the other day. And I remember Donald Trump saying how he was a big fan of Andrew Jackson. Y'all know Andrew Jackson, the Trail of Tears guy who killed numerous slaves, killed numerous Native Americans, moved them out of their native lands and marched them to Oklahoma to concentration camps. I know y'all like to call them reservations, but those were concentration camps. I learned this, I believe I was listening to Doris Kearns Goodwin. She's a presidential historian. And I just learned this last week, and it dawned on me that Andrew Jackson is one of Donald Trump's heroes. And I see now what Donald Trump is doing. Because did y'all know, see, this is not what they taught us in history. Did y'all know that the Supreme Court at the time told Andrew Jackson that he could not have the Trail of Tears? The Supreme Court ruled against him, saying that is illegal. But Andrew Jackson did it anyway. He basically told them to F you, and I'm going to do it anyway. Does that remind you of someone? Just this past week, Donald Trump, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that Donald Trump must effectuate the return of an American citizen who lived here in Maryland, whom they kidnapped, because that's basically what they did, and sent him to an El Salvadoran prison. Now, this man was not to be returned to El Salvador because of fear of life. It had been adjudicated by another court. Donald Trump did it anyway. And they've been thumbing their noses at the court since then because they are saying now, the court is saying that you have to bring this guy back. And they say, oh, well, we're introducing the war powers and we can't bring him back. We can't even give the judge information on why they did it or how they did it. These people are dangerous. Because and maybe you're one of those people that say, oh, well, the immigrants need to go. I don't necessarily agree with that. That we're going to see how that's going to affect us here in the next few months as well. But if they're willing to kidnap and ship people off to other countries without due process, what do you think they're willing to do to you? In fact, it was proffered last week in a press conference by Caroline Leavitt that there had been discussions of deporting Americans to other countries. Americans! We're living in a dangerous time. And we cannot continue to sit around and expect justice without demanding justice. This is a dangerous, dangerous situation. This man crashed. Oh, by the way, when he crashed the stock market and he turned around and put in this 90-day moratorium, did you know a lot of these stockholders made millions of dollars? Give me an example. Marjorie Trader Green. She bragged about the money that she made. Did she have some insider trading? Did she know that Donald Trump was going to issue this moratorium so she could go out and buy stock? What about others? Donald Trump was bragging about it in the Oval Office. He got caught on a hot mic. There should be an investigation. But the Republican House is letting this man do whatever he wants. These are some dangerous people. These millionaires and billionaires are running our government. They're running it in the ground, and they are making millions of dollars while you, the taxpayer, suffer. Just this past week, they passed a bill. It still needs to be funded. They want to give $4.3 billion to the wealthiest 1%. And how are they going to fund it? They're going to cut Medicare. They're going to cut Medicaid, and they're going to cut Social Security. You know, Republicans have been trying to cut Social Security for decades. You know, Social Security is not an entitlement. Social Security is money that I'm going to be due in 2 years. In a year and a half. This is money that I worked for, that I paid into the system in my FICA taxes, and now you're telling me that it's not going to be there because that money is going to go to millionaires and trillionaires and billionaires? Folks, we're in dangerous times, and I need you all to start paying attention. I need you all to get to the polls. You know, they are so bold that they don't even talk to their constituents anymore. It's gotten to the point now where Democrats are having, empty chair town hall meetings. Whereas if they got a chair, they put a sign, this is your Republican representative. Why isn't he there? And those places are being packed out. Now, the Democrats have allowed some of this to go on themselves. This is part of the reason I left the Democratic Party, because, in my opinion, they just don't fight enough. They don't fight hard enough. They're trying to do that now. But we are in very, very dangerous times. And you've got a criminal in the White House. And I said a couple of weeks ago that Jasmine Crockett is a national treasure, because Jasmine Crockett is one of the very few who is mixing no words about Donald Trump and his illegal activity. She made the point in a committee hearing last week that these Republicans are so upset about and claiming criminality of immigrants, which are very few. And Jasmine Crockett was a civil rights attorney. And she made the point that, hey, as many people that I've represented in Texas and Arkansas and in the South, I never represented any criminal migrants. Yes, have there been crimes that were committed by migrants? Yes, there has. But you know what? There were crimes committed by white people. There are crimes committed by black people. But her point is that it's nothing but a red herring. It's a lie. We've got to start standing up. We got to, look, freedom ain't free. We got to start standing up for democracy. It is imperative. It is imperative. We got to take our last break. When we come back, it's called What We Must Do. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices, on joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from ReaRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on ReaRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes, SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils. And yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to SkinTentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. SkinTentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
All right, welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. I was going to say our choices, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We try to keep you up to date. We talked a little bit about Karmelo Anthony and the GoFundMe and how the discrepancy is you let Kyle Rittenhouse raise money, a man who killed 2 people, but you're not letting Karmelo Anthony raise money. We also talked about time for mandatory DNA. It is imperative that we get that taken care of. Fathers' rights, men's rights. By the way, as I'm asking every week now, what are the reproductive rights of men? Okay. Maryland House of Representatives decided that they were going to fund a commission to look into reparations for people who suffered from slavery, which I think is fantastic. And also, we followed up a little bit about Ant-Man. We talked a lot about it last week. And last but not least, we talked about we talked about April 5th and where was the police presence. And it was iconic. It was iconography. What is the word? Iconographic evidence that this country is still racist. Because those are white people out there marching. There were no police. Let black people have a march. See what happens. But see, black people tired of marching. We ain't marching no more. And last but not least, we spent a lot of time on Donald Trump. And what has happened over the last week and what's gonna, well, look, we're not even at 100 days yet, man, and this is a disaster. There are a lot of things that I would like to say about him. Let's just say I'll just leave it at that. I think you all know what I'm thinking. If we can be blessed, if there's a God, then I'll leave it at that. Okay? Now, we're at the segment of what we must do. And I talk about this every week. Number one, what we must do as black people is spend money with our own. What we must do as black people, we must start investing in our own communities. What we must do as black people, we must start supporting our children. What we must do as black people, we must teach our own history. No one can save us from us for us but us. We have been brainwashed to the extent that we don't know our butts from a hole in the ground. Africa is waking up. I see stories every week about how Africans are taking their land back, how they are blocking Chinese and American and British interests from coming into their country and exploiting the people and exploiting the minerals. You see, Africa is mineral rich. It has every mineral that you could imagine right there in Africa, from diamonds to cadmium to whatever gold. It's right there in Africa. And those Africans are beginning to wake up. I pray that we as African Americans or black or whatever you want to call yourself will too begin to wake up. Because it is key. See, have you all noticed something? Have y'all looked at Donald Trump's ear lately? You know, the ear that he allegedly got shot in. Have you? Okay. He got shot with a high power. Let me take that back. He allegedly got shot with a high powered rifle. He got shot in the ear. How is it that his ear is intact? When y'all look at his ear, it doesn't make any sense to me. Remember when Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear? You look at Evander Holyfield's ear today, it's still damaged. You got shot with a high-powered rifle, bro, and your ear is still there. The whole ear. See, that's the other thing we must do. We have to start looking at logic. By the way, go out to my wall. I posted a picture of Donald Trump's ear and Evander Holyfield's ear. You see, we got to start paying attention to things that don't make sense. That's important. And last but not least, it's time to boycott these colleges. It's just time. All of these PWIs that is making billions of dollars off of black bodies. You know, it's funny how these PWIs, the majority of them, have killed their DEI programs. They killed them at the behest of Donald Trump. But they didn't kill their athletic programs. By the way, if white people are playing football, are they DEI? If white boys are playing basketball, are they DEI? You want to break their backs? Tell your kid he's not playing. The starting quarterback for the Tennessee Vols decided that he was not going to show up for spring training last week. He decided that he wasn't going to show up because they are paying him $2.3 or $4 million in NIL money. He said, I want $4 million, so I'm not going to show up till I get it. So if you can do that, and the sad thing about it, I've said this over and over again, I don't think black males today and black people in general have the courage of the black people back in the 60s. I just don't. They're all about themselves. They're not going to quit. They're not going to pause their money. Now look, if you're making $2.3 million in NIL, if you decided that you were going to pause for the cause, that's not going to hurt you one bit, bro. You're not spending all that money right now. You see, that's what we must do. We got to develop a consciousness. We don't have a consciousness. That's why it is important for you to start. I think this generation, today's generation, is lost. They're gone. They're over. So how do you change that? Well, here's how you change it. You change it simply by beginning to teach history and culture to the 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-olds. So when they go to school and these white schools start lying to them and telling them that this is what happened, then they have something that they've been taught by their mom and their daddy and their churches, their ministers, their deacons. They know this is what the truth was. And then what that'll do is begin to develop self-esteem and consciousness. Now, let me tell you something just quickly before we get out of here. My 2 children, and y'all know I love my children. That's why I said I love my children too. Part of the reason that they are so conscious, they are so powerful, is because I demanded that they learn black history. I demanded it. I remember my daughter being in the 4th grade and the teacher sent home the reading list and there were no black authors on there. I simply picked up the phone. Hello, Mrs. Teacher. I'm David Coleman. My daughter is so-and-so, so-and-so. She brought home her reading list, and I noticed that there were no black authors on there. How is it that you could be teaching language arts or English or whatever it was? I forgot what it was. And there was no black authors on there. Are you telling me that there are no legitimate black authors? And you know what? She was honest. She said, I'm going to be totally honest with you, that I don't know any black authors. Do you mind sending me a list? And I did. They're not going to teach your children. You must be, look, parents are the #1 teachers of their children. What you teach them at home is what they will carry for the rest of their lives. And girls and boys, that's what we must do. We've got to get out of here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Support our sponsors, JoyNetRadio.com and RibRub.com. And if you have any questions, comments, hit me up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or send me an email at blackfocusradio@gmail.com. It's been great talking to you as always. I love you all. Thank you for all your prayers, and I'll be back soon.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joynetradio.com.